Chapter 23. Curdie and his mother. Curdie went up the mountain neither whistling nor singing, for he was very vexed with Irene for having taken him in, as he called it, and he was vexed with himself for having spoken to her so angrily. His mother gave a cry of joy when she saw him, and at once set about getting him something to eat, asking him questions all the while, which he did not answer so cheerfully as he usually did. When the meal was ready, she left him to eat, and hurried down to the mines to let his father know he was safe. When she came back, she found him fast asleep upon her bed, and she didn't wake him until his father came home that evening. "Now, Curdie," said his mother, as they sat at their supper, "tell us the whole story, from beginning to end, just as it happened." Curdie obeyed, and told everything to the point where they came out upon the lawn in the garden of the king's house. "And what happened after that?" asked his mother. "You haven't told us. You ought to be very happy having got away from those demons, and instead I never saw you so gloomy. There must be something more. Besides, you do not speak of that lovely child as I should like to hear from you. She saved your life, at risk to her own, and yet somehow you don't seem to think very much of it." "She talks such nonsense," answered Curdie, "and told me a pack of things that weren't a bit true. I can't get over it." "What were they?" asked his father. "Your mother may be able to throw some light upon them." Curdie made a clean breast of it, and told them everything. They all sat in silence for some time, pondering the strange tale. At last, Curdie's mother spoke. "You confess, my boy," she said, "there is something about the whole affair you do not understand?" "Of course, mother," he answered. "I cannot understand how a child, knowing nothing about the mountains, or even that I was shut up in it, should somehow come all the way alone straight to where I was, and then, after getting me out of the hole, lead me out of the mountain too, where I should have not known the step of the way had it been as light as day down there." "Then you have no right to say what she told you is not true. She did take you out, and she may have had something to guide her. Why not a thread as well as a rope, or anything else? There is something you cannot explain, and her explanation may be the right one." "It's not an explanation at all, mother, and I can't believe it." "That may only be because you do not understand it. If you did, you would probably find it to be an explanation, and believe it thoroughly. I don't blame you for not being able to believe it, but I do blame you for fancying that such a child would try to deceive you. Why should you? What should she? Depend upon it, she told you all she knew. Until you had found a better way of accounting for it, you might at least be a little more sparing in your judgment." "That's what something inside me has been saying all the time," said Curdie, hanging his head low. "But what do you make of the grandmother? That's the bit I can't get over. To take me up to some old garret and try to persuade me against the sight of my own eyes that it's a beautiful room with blue walls and silver stars and no end of things in it, when there was nothing there but an old tub and a withered apple and a heap of straw and a sunbeam. It's all too bad. She might have had some old woman at least to try to pass as her precious grandmother." "Didn't she speak as if she saw all the things herself, Curdie?" "Yes, that's what bothers me. You would have thought she really meant it, and believed every one of the things she talked about. And not one of them was there. It's too bad, I say." "Perhaps some people can see things other people can't see, Curdie," said his mother very gravely. "I think I will tell you something I saw myself once. Only perhaps you won't believe me either." "Oh, mother, mother," cried Curdie, bursting into tears. "I don't deserve this, surely." "But what I'm going to tell you is very strange," persisted his mother. "And if, having heard it, you were to say I must have been dreaming, I don't know that I should have any right to be vexed with you, though I know I was not in the least bit asleep." "Do tell me, mother. Perhaps it will help me think better of the princess." "That's why I'm tempted to tell you," replied his mother. "But first, I may as well mention that, according to old whispers, there is something more than common about the king's family, and the Queen was of the same blood, for they were cousins to some degree. There were strange stories concerning them, all good stories, but strange, very strange. What they were I cannot tell, for I only remember the faces of my grandmother and mother as they talked about them. There was wonder and awe, but not fear, in their eyes, and they whispered, and they never spoke aloud. But what I saw myself is this. Your father had gone to work in the mines one night, and I had been down with his supper. It was soon after we were married, and not very long before you were born. He came with me to the mouth of the mines, and left me to go home alone, for I knew the way almost as well as I know the floor of my own cottage. It was pretty dark, and in some parts of the road where the rocks hang over, quite dark. But I got along perfectly well, never thinking of being afraid, until I reached a spot you know well enough, Curdie, where the path has to make a sharp turn out of the way of a great rock on the left-hand side. When I got there, I was suddenly surrounded by more than half a dozen cobs. More than the first of them I'd ever seen, although I'd heard tell of them often enough. One of them blocked up the path, and they all began to torment and tease me in ways that make me shudder to think of now. If only I had been there with you, cried both father and son in one breath. The mother gave a funny little smile and went on. They had some other hideous creatures with them too, and I must confess I was dreadfully frightened. They had torn at my clothes very much, and I was afraid they were going to tear myself to pieces, when suddenly a great white light shone down upon me. I looked up. A broad ray of light, like a shining road, came down from a large globe of silvery light. Not very high up, indeed not quite so high as the horizon, so it could not have been a new star or another moon or anything of that sort. The cobs dropped persecuting me and looked dazed, and I thought they were going to run away, but presently they began again. In the same moment, however, down the path from the globe came a bird, shining like silver in the sun. It gave a few rapid flaps at first, and then, with its wings straight out, it shot down the slope of light. It looked to me just like a white pigeon. But whatever it was, when the cobs caught sight of it coming straight down upon them, they took to their heels and scampered away across the mountain, leaving me safe, only very much frightened. As soon as it had sent them off, the bird went gliding up again to the light, and the moment it reached the light, the globe disappeared, just as if a shutter had been closed on a window, and I saw it no more. But I had no more trouble with the cobs that night, or ever after. How strange! Exclaimed Curdie. Yes, it is strange, but I can't help believing it, whether you do or not, said his mother. It's exactly as your mother told me the very next morning, said his father. You don't think I'm doubting my own mother? Cried Curdie. There are other people in the world quite as well worth believing as your own mother, said Curdie, and I don't know that she's much fitter to be believed that she happens to be your mother, Mr. Curdie. There are mothers far more likely to tell lies than the little girl I saw talking to the primroses a week ago. If she were to tell a lie, I should begin to doubt my own word. But princesses have told lies as well as other people, said Curdie. Yes, but not this princess. Not a princess like that child. She's a good girl, I am certain. And that's more than being a princess. Depend upon it, you will have to be sorry for behaving to her so, Curdie. You ought at least to have held your tongue. I am sorry now, answered Curdie. You ought to go and tell her so. I don't see how I could manage it. They wouldn't let a minor boy have a word with her alone, and I couldn't tell her before that nurse of hers. She'd be asking ever so many questions, and I don't know how many of them the little princess should like me to answer. She told me that Lootie did not know anything about her coming to get me out of the mountain. I am certain she would have prevented her somehow if she had known. But I may have a chance before long, and meantime I must try to do something for her. I think, Father, I've got on the track at last. Have you indeed, my boy? Said Peter. I am sure you deserve some success. all the work you've done for it. What is it you have found out? It's difficult, Father, inside the mountains, especially in the dark, to know what turns have taken regard to the lay of things outside. Impossible, my boy, without a chart or at least a compass. Well, I think I have nearly discovered in what direction the cobs are mining. If I am right, I know something else I can put to it, and then 1 and 1 will make 3. As they very often do, Curdie, as we miners are very often well aware. Now tell us, my boy, what are the 2 things? And we'll see if we can't guess at the 3rd for you. I don't see what this has to do with the princess, interposed his mother. I will soon let you see that, Mother. Perhaps you may think me foolish, but until I am sure that there is nothing to my present fancy, I am more determined than ever to go about my observances. Just as we came to the channel by which we got out, I heard the miners at work nearby, I think down below us. Now, since I began to watch them, they have mined a good half-mile in a straight line, and so far as I'm aware, they are working on no other part of the mountain. But I could never tell in what direction they were going. When we came out in the king's garden, however, I thought at once whether it might be possible that they were working towards the king's house. And that's what I want to do tonight, is to make sure whether they are or not. I will take a light with me. Oh, Curdie, cried his mother, then they will see you. I'm not more afraid of them now than I was before, rejoined Curdie. Not now that I have this precious shoe. They cannot make another in a hurry, and 1 bare foot will do for my purpose. Woman that she may be, I won't spare her next time. And I shall be careful with my light, for I don't want them to see me. I'll not stick it in my hat. Go on then, tell us what you mean to do. I mean to take a bit of paper with me and a pencil, and go in at the mountain mouth of the stream where we came. I shall mark on the pencil as near as I can the angle of every turn I take until I find the cobs at work. So I'll get a good idea of the direction in which they're going. If it should prove to be near parallel to the stream, I shall know that they're going towards the king's house. And what if you should? How much wiser will you be then? Wait a minute. I have told you that I came upon the royal family in the cave. They were talking to their prince, Harelip, they call him, about marrying a sun woman. That means one of us, one with toes on her feet. Now, in the speech one of them made the night of their great gathering, which I only heard part of, he said that peace would be secured for a generation at least by the pledge the prince would extract for the good behaviour of her relatives. That's what he said, and he must have meant the sun woman the prince was to marry. I'm quite sure the king is much too proud to wish his son to marry any but a princess, and too knowing to fancy that his having a peasant woman for a wife could be any advantage to them. Ah, I see what you're driving at now. But, said his father, our king would dig the mountain to the plain before he would let the princess be the wife of a cob, even if he were 10 times a prince. Yes, but they do think ever so much of themselves, said his mother. Small creatures always do. The bantam is the proudest cock in my little yard, and my dog Squire always barks very loudly at big dogs. Oh, sorry, back to the story. And I fancy, said Curdie, if they once got her, they would tell the king that they would kill her, except that he consented to the marriage. And they might do so, they might say so, said his father, but they wouldn't kill her. They would keep her alive for the sake of the hold it gave them over the king. Whatever he did to them, they would threaten to do the same to the princess. And they're bad enough to torment her just for their own amusement. I know that, said his mother. Anyhow, I will keep a watch on them and see what they're up to, said Curdie. It's too horrible to think of. I daren't let myself do it. But they shan't have her, at least not if I can help it. So, mother dear, my clue is all right. Will you get me a bit of paper and a pencil and a lump of pease pudding, please? And I will set out at once. I saw the place where I can climb over the wall into the garden quite easy. You must mind to keep a watch out for those men at arms, said his mother. That I will do, for I don't want them to know anything about it. They would only spoil it. The cops, they would only try to come up with some other plan. They are such obstinate creatures. I will take good care, mother. They won't kill me or eat me, even if they should come upon me. So you needn't mind about them. His mother got him what he asked for, and Curdie set out. Close beside the door through which the princess had left the garden for the mountain stood a great rock, and by climbing it, Curdie got over the wall. He tied his clue to the stone just outside the channel of the stream, and took his pickaxe with him. When he got no further when he had not gone far, however, he encountered a horrible creature coming towards the mouth. The spot was too narrow for two of any size or shape, and besides, Curdie had no wish to let the creature pass. Not being able to use his pickaxe, however, he had a severe struggle with him, and only after receiving many bites, and some of them quite bad, did he succeed in killing him with a pocket knife. Having dragged him out of the way, he made haste to get in again, and before another should stop up his way. I need not follow him on this night's adventures. He returned to his breakfast, satisfied that the goblins were mining in the direction of the palace, and so low a level that their intention must be, he thought, to burrow under the walls into the king's house and to rise up inside it, in order, he fully believed, to lay hands upon the little princess and carry her off to be the wife of the horrid harelip.